Well, hello, everyone. It is that Weems guy back for another episode finally. I know we weren't here last week. Unfortunately, illness has been ravaging through my workplace, and it has taken myself and all of my coworkers down for the count at least once in the last 2 weeks. And it has been rough, and I am still suffering some ill effects. So if I disappear, Steve Moses will take over. Steve, if you would, say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody. My name is Steve Moses. I'm a firearms trainer. I've been on this podcast multiple times, and I'm part of the Range Master community, and I'm just glad to be here right now.
All right, and we will introduce the rest of the panel. John.
I'm John Ford. I took the class just recently on the 22 with Steve and really enjoyed it and love to talk about it tonight.
Edwina.
Hi, Edwina Parker. I'm an instructor and also a student with Steve. I took that class, the first class offered, and really excited about it.
Charles.
I'm Charles Schomeyer. I'm actually not an instructor. I'm a lifelong student. Just in but I took the class and I was really excited. And I think it's a great class. I'm glad to be here.
Charles, I think you and I have been students together in at least six classes,
That is true.
at least. And I know you've taken several for me as well, like at different conferences and stuff.
Yep, yep.
All right. And of course,
Yes.
if you start including the conference blocks we've attended both as students together, I don't know if we got to be more than six.
It's probably quite a few more than six. Yes, sir.
Yeah. The one that stands out to me the most was we were both students in a Dave Spalding class in Shreveport, Louisiana, which Tom Gibbons and John Herm also in there with us.
That stands out to me and always will. Such a great experience. You shot very well.
Well, we can't mention that because my internet rules just
Ah,
demand that I point out that Hearn only won one buckle and I won two.
one, two.
It was that your recollection?
That is my recollection.
That never gets old to me. It may get old to everybody else in the audience, but for this ongoing thing with Hearn, we have to work that in constantly. I gotta say, here lately, it has become fashionable for people to do memes for the two of us. They send us to each other messages and stuff. That I'm getting a pretty good kick out of that, even though I am not a meme guy. All right, so let's talk about tonight's episode. Several weeks ago, Steve Moses and Chuck Haggard were on, and they kind of talked about the use of a 22, particularly 22 rifle, in self-defense setting, and then upcoming class that Steve had on that topic. Um, I had a request to do a rebuttal to that from one Eric Lund. Eric came on and did an episode and kind of refuted some of the things in the video, took some other things to task. Um, Rather than directly respond to that, Steve put together this panel of people to come on tonight and talk about the class now that the class has been held. Uh, Folks, we're going to endeavor to keep this a reasonable discussion. Steve is a good friend of mine. Eric is a longtime good friend of mine. I've known Eric since before I came onto this whole open enrollment training world circuit. And I don't want to be the instigator of a battle between the two of those guys and don't want to be taking sides or anything. I think that what they're both saying has merit. And I do believe that we can have a reasonable discussion on the topic, even if there are disagreements.
Agreed.
All right, so Steve, if you would kind of go back and rehash kind of what your initial statements were as far as the 22 and its uses and why the 22 and the 22 rifle in particular.
Well, the rationale behind, trying to get these students that many of them have probably never taken a class, never thought about taking a class, and are actually hesitant to jump into something like this because, hey, I know I need to do something, but guns are dangerous and I'm not sure they're safe. Well, I mean, I completely understand that. When it comes to bungee jumping or, uh, sky jumping, I'm hesitant. I'm very skeptical about. I'm not so much skeptical about it. It's just like I've got a lot of concerns about that. Maybe if I dipped my finger in there or dipped my toe in, I might find it fun. But there's a little bit of hesitation there. However, a lot of these people still have the same concerns about defending themselves that we armed defenders do, and a lot of very competent armed defenders have family members or friends that they would at least like them to be able to mount a reasonable defense in the event that they're not there. The nice thing about 22 rifles, as we all know, they're inexpensive, they're fun to shoot, there's minimal uh, recoil and muzzle blast, and a lot of people, when they start shooting them and shooting them with success, they find it an enjoyable experience. And one of the reasons that I think that a 22 rifle in their hands is superior to a centerfire handgun is it's all about precision. 22s are just much easier to shoot precisely. If you're familiar with Dr. James Williams, he has the Tactical Anatomy Shooting with X-ray Vision instructor class, as well as he's kind of the inspiration for the Tactical Anatomy Summit. He has a slide that says placement is king, precision is queen, and everything else is angels dancing on the head of a pin. Well, what we know is that people that are relatively unskilled with firearms can use a 22 rifle much more effectively in terms of precision than they can with a centerfire handgun, which often takes a fair amount of time to not even master, but to become reasonably competent with. And we also know that if it's placed in the right spot, it can be very effective in incapacitating or simply neutralizing a threat. I saw a video the other day. It was on let's see, I believe it was on the gun owners radio, and there were facts that stated that in Missouri, gun owners were successful 83% of the time. They attempted to wound, drive off, or capture one or more persons who represented deadly threats. Well, what we know is most people don't want to be shot with anything. And we also know that people that are hit precisely with a 22 rifle in the right place, whether they want to stop or not, they're rapidly incapacitated.
Okay. There was a professor with Florida State. I believe he's retired now, and his name is slipping my mind. Um, he wrote, and forgive me if I don't get the number exactly right. Masada, you quoted him, and I have not read the actual source literature, but said upwards of 90% of the time, the fact that a defender produced a firearm alone, just the fact they produced the firearm ended the encounter. Um, I can't quote the exact source material, and I believe that professor is retired now. But I'm sorry I can't give you his name. But if you search Google for Florida State criminal justice professor and defensive use of firearms, you'll probably get to his article or his writings. Steve, you spoke earlier before we started recording about a hesitant shooter. Would you go ahead and give us a definition of that real quick?
Well, the way that we were using that in that particular podcast, we were kind of searching for words, and I think it was Chuck that actually came up with the hesitant shooter. Hesitant shooter does not mean that they are necessarily going to hesitate when it comes to defending their life. It simply means in any instances is that, well, I don't know how to use this gun. I don't know if there's training available. Wow, those guns look scary. I see all this stuff, in the media where guns do terrible things. And there is just a lot of concern going in as to whether or not are they capable of learning how to use a gun. And in many instances, once they've taken that first class and they understand that basically, okay, like teaching someone how to hit a softball or drive a golf ball or play tennis, it is just a series of physical, mechanical uh, exercises in which you do certain standard things in order to use those competently.
Okay. And you have a 4 hour class focused on this particular topic, right?
That's correct. And if I could get people in an 8-hour class or a 16-hour class, I would do it. I prefer to take classes of that duration. I've been doing this for 30 years. For probably the first 15 years, all of our classes were 2-day classes. And then they became 1-day classes because people were a little bit more reluctant to dedicate an entire, weekend to a class. And in many instances, what we're seeing now is that if you can get them in there for a 4-hour class, they will come. But a lot of people don't realize that you can accomplish a lot in a 4-hour class. There's instructors, yourself, possibly John Hearn, that teach quality 4-hour instructor classes or 4-hour classes at national conferences such as the Girl and the Gun, uh, Tactical Conference, Tactical Conference, Guardian Conference, and over the years, these instructors are able to pack a lot of information in there in 4 hours. By the same token, you have to design a lesson plan that focuses on the critical stuff and keep focused on that as to, okay, this is the stuff you need to know. This is the stuff that's probably going to be the most critical to you in a use of force instance, especially home defense, which is way different than what law enforcement, has to deal with. In order to get that information done. I mean, get that task done. And I think it's doable. And I think, like Edwina said, it'll start them on the right path. And perhaps they'll go ahead and continue. If not, hopefully, because 22 rimfire rifles are so inexpensive and fun to shoot, they'll at least go to the range and practice.
All righty. Now let's talk to our panel of people. John, what drew you to this class, and are you, in fact, a hesitant shooter?
I wouldn't say that I'm a hesitant shooter, but I know that my wife and my daughter, who also took the class, are extremely hesitant shooters. And Charles has been through all this kind of stuff before. This is my first class I've ever taken on guns, and I thought it was an awesome course. And it's a very it was an easy, like you said, it was an easier gun to manipulate. My daughter could do it. My daughter was shooting right there in the A order. She was doing the right shots, and when the game was over with, she had a great target, and my wife was doing pretty good too. And I'm just and like Edwina said too, my wife Stacy. We've already been back to Edwina's place. She's ready to buy a 9mm, so she's already got the 22 on order. So we're gonna get one of those for her too as well. But a year ago, she never would have done that. She never would have been comfortable just handling any kind of gun at that point. And I think she's a little bit more comfortable now. I know I'm a little bit more comfortable. I'm by no means a gun guy right now, and I want to be a gun guy. But I think it was a good. It really is an easy course to get into. It's a fun course to get into. It's not intimidating, I guess. There's no you're not going to be shooting a 40 where it's going to recoil on you and be scary and all that kind of stuff. So my daughter was easily able to do that kind of stuff. So hope that helps a little bit.
Okay, we won't get you in trouble by asking how old your wife is, but how old's your daughter?
My daughter's 16.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. And was this, I think you said this was their first training as well?
That all of us, all three of us, it was our
Okay.
first training ever.
Okay. And which firearm did you use?
She was using Steve, you can probably tell him because I was using the MP 15. I forgot what it was. I don't know what Lauren was using. Do you recall?
It
Steve?
was a little Ruger compact carry.
Okay.
The one that we discussed in our last podcast, Lee.
Okay. All right.
And she loved it. I mean, she had a great time with it. As a matter of fact, at the very end, we see the whole area where you're supposed to be shooting. When she saw that she was hitting the right spot the entire time, she was actually quite excited about that. So, but it was one of those that was easy for her to actually manipulate. And I think eventually, as time goes on, we'll expand her, armaments that she actually goes into. My wife is already ready to do that. So.
Okay. Cool.
Nice.
And you mentioned your wife's ready to order a 9mm. She picked out one?
Let's talk to Edwina.
Okay. All right.
She's
Go
already
ahead,
got a
Boone.
pretty one picked out for her.
All right. Well, Wina, the floor is yours.
Oh my. So we didn't pick out a pretty gun.
Not
Um,
yet.
Steve, it just happens to have a pretty version. So
Yes.
Steve had recommended that she try the SIG 938 or the I'm sorry, the 365 XL or the macro. And Stacy's a little bit girly, so I showed her the rose on the way out, and she's convinced that's her gun. But we won't know
Yes.
that until we actually shoot it. So
Yes.
she
Absolutely.
did. She did order the MMP, the 1522 compact, so that should be in this week. And then when it comes in, we'll do a quick lesson with her on that and then also have her try different handguns.
You said the 1522 or the MMP 22 compact?
It's the M&P
That,
1522 pistol.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the AR style 22
Mhm.
pistol. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I've got two of the MMP 1522s, but they're the 16-inch barrel set up
Mhm.
like a carbine and everything. And I use them as an analog for AR classes.
Right.
But then
Right.
they have a 22 pistol, MP 22 pistol, and MP 22 compact.
Hmm.
And I've got
Right.
one of those, and I use it a lot for. I don't do a lot of uh, gateway training, so to speak, for private citizens.
Mhm.
I teach a lot of new police officers and new cops, and so I teach government funded gateway students, but not privately funded gateway students. But when I do, I love that little MMP
Uh-huh.
22 compact pistol. It feeds
Yeah.
anything. All right. So what did you use for the class, Odin?
I had a little Ruger 1022 backpack, and I did take my lever action because Steve said we could, but we're doing 10 round groups and I didn't want to have to reload all the time.
Right.
So it was a fun class. And I, I've said before, and I told Steve, I just think it's a great gateway class because it is fun. They're fun to shoot. And which is why I have several 22 rifles, just because they're fun and a lot less expensive than the precision rifle. So
There you go.
shoot a lot more. Um, but Stacy was a great example of it because I felt like she was very timid and shy around guns, and she wasn't this past week. So she has changed her attitude quite a bit.
All right. Charles, I know you are not a hesitant shooter. Well, so what drew you to this class?
So I have a house full of girls. I have three daughters and a wife. And my oldest is an E6 in the Air Force, and she doesn't need really all that much help with shooting. Um, but my youngest two girls are happy to shoot 22s,
Hmm.
but getting them past that 22 is been a challenge. Both of them understand the importance of it. Is just getting them past that. The middle daughter, I've gotten her to a 9 millimeter, but I understand the importance of meeting them with something that's fun, something that's easy to learn, something that allows them to put rounds on the target, and getting them to shoot 22s is easy. Um, it interested me being able to take an existing thing that they have fun and teach them how to use that as an effective self-defense tool. Also, in my chosen profession, I'm about 90% females. So, and I have women who ask me to help them shoot. And one particular uh, lady I work with, she just doesn't have the strength to manipulate most handguns, but the ability to put, a compact Ruger 1022 and have her 3 points of contact and be able to make hits for a home defense gun appealed to me if I thought that could happen in a short period of time. So I wanted to explore that. Um, like I said, I'm not an instructor, but I understand the importance of meeting people where they're at. And maybe someday when I retire, I can hang targets for real instructors and have fun like doing that. So anyway.
You bring up a good point there with the hand strength. I know it's one of the common fallacies of husbands, boyfriends, and gun shop guys. Is a female walks in wanting to buy a gun, and they immediately say, "Well, you won't be able to rack the slide on this semi-automatic. So here's this very lightweight double action revolver that's going to hurt on both ends when you shoot it." Well, if they don't have the strength to rack the slide, they probably don't have the strength to press the trigger on a double action revolver as
Right.
well. That is one thing in even most of the 22 automatics, or the bigger size, not necessarily the little pocket ones, but say like the M&P 22 and 22 compact, a Glock 44, a Ruger 2245. Uh, Working those slides or the bolts, just depending on which one it is not that hard.
Right.
And that alleviates a lot of those issues right there. All right. So, Charles, did we ask what weapon you shot in the class?
So I shot a takedown 1022 with a primary arms optic. So
Okay. All right. So, one of Eric's criticisms of this class was going to be is how effective can you be in a 4 hour class? And Steve, what all were you trying to accomplish in 4 hours?
Well, in a 4-hour class, what I wanted them to do was understand the importance of tactical anatomy. So we teach this class like we teach the tactical anatomy class, and some of the same things that we use in a regular defensive carbine class, we kind of taught it the same way. So the main thing is okay, showing them, you know, where they need to place those rounds. And then, of course, it's a matter of showing them how to unload, load, clear, press check, everything that you need to do in order to keep those things up running, but also keeping in a safe mode. Then we need to go ahead and spend a little bit of time on just getting them comfortable with shooting those rifles, watching the dot, watching the sight, feeling the trigger, and all they have to do then is just hit the berm. And so once they do that and they start developing a feel for that, because, okay, we're not trying to hit a specific target, it becomes relatively easy. The other thing is we put tremendous emphasis on what I call snap shooting. I don't know what that term means to other people, but to us, what that means is we want you to, from a safe, ready position, to bring or snap that rifle up very quickly to a point where you've got your dot, your front sight on the target, pause, confirm, and then press the trigger. And we do that in an untimed manner for about the first, 20 repetitions. And then very quickly, we start we bring the timer into effect. And we're saying it's important to understand that you need to understand that a fight of this nature is a competitive event which you didn't get to start, and you don't get to really determine. He's the person that's going to tell you when it's finished, which is going to mean you need to be able to get that gun up quickly into a position and put accurate hits on that target in those vital areas in a reasonably short time period. We do that in repetitions. One of the things that we don't do is we do not shoot at aortic arches or hot dogs or anything else. The students actually start shooting at a regular USPSA or IPSC or IDPA target that basically simply has a 3 by 5 inch rectangle that extends from about the sternal notch down to a line even with the armpits. And we have them shoot that. And once we get them shooting pretty good, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and spoil the surprise here. We show them what that would have accomplished, and while no one can probably see it but us, uh, this is the target that Charles was shooting, and there was actually a cardboard IDPA target in front of it, and then behind it was this black piece of letterhead, followed by actually a Tactical Anatomy Summit target, where you can see that by targeting that particular area, rather than shooting at a specific area, he quickly learned, okay, where are those vitals? And as you can see, the much of the superior aorta, vena cava, even some of the carotid and subclavian arteries are just shot to pieces. And so this is what we do, and we're able to typically show this to the students. They get a lot of good feedback from it. And then from there, we feel like this training really needs to be realistic. So we show them what it might look like if an intruder was actually trying to come in your bedroom and you were situated in a hard corner being identified on a corner is the same side of the door, and what that might look like and what parts of the intruder are susceptible to damage, which also included everything had to commence with a challenge, such as I have a gun, I'll shoot you, the police are coming, leave now, and then just shutting up. We don't do that with rifles. We actually use that with laser pointers so they can actually show me in real time, okay, do you see that area and where you're going to shoot? Which was kind of interesting because in many instances, uh, Alan McBee, my partner, he was the intruder. And when he came around, he's wearing, protective eyewear. The tendency on about half the students was to shoot low and then bring it up. And students like John and Charles, they instantly put that laser pointer in what we decide, we declare as the desired point of impact. And then finally, we have a couple of torso targets, the same ones that Dr. Williams uses in his classes. And we have the students engage them. They're covered with t-shirts and stuff. We have them at various angles so that they can see and show us that they know how to target that area. And again, these are all timed to a certain extent, but I won't tell you what the timing device was that we used for that.
Okay.
And then finally, uh, you know, uh, I think it's real important to tell students in any class that involves defensive firearms how to manage the aftermath of a shooting. And it is really not that difficult. We do a short lecture, very short, and then I wrote several articles for CCW Safe that were posted by them on managing the aftermath of a shooting. We'd hand that out, answer their questions. But the main thing was, I think you know about this. All of the reason I got into training because I was one of those untrained gun owners in 1979 that dealt with an intruder in their home at 1 a.m. in the night, in which I went into a dark room, no flashlights, no light at all, couldn't even see him, watched him walk across, he was backlit momentarily while he crossed it, yelled at him to get on the floor, pinned him up against the front door. My wife called the phone, and then the police knocked on the door, and it was the door I had him pinned against. And I'm like going, oh my God. So anyway, I was able to kind of, get that situation sorted out. But I sat down and I realized right then I need training. I was just like, I could have gotten killed because he had a big old flathead screwdriver in his hand.
Hmm.
And so one of the things I know is that just a little bit of information about such as, you know, uh, watch them, uh, ask them if they want to leave. If they want to leave, let them leave. You don't have to capture them.
Okay.
If they're not, okay, you need to be prepared for meeting the police. How are they going to come through? And you need to know how to safe your gun so you don't get shot. People get shot, mistakenly by police officers all the time. Not so much as it used to be, but it still happens. And then, kind of what to say to responding law enforcement officers, give them the big piece of the puzzle. Yeah, that guy broke into my house at night. I thought he was going to kill me, and I shot him, or I put him, made him get down on the floor. I shot him, he ran off, whatever, and I'll be happy to cooperate once I've had a chance to talk with my attorney. So that pretty much wraps up the entire thing. As far as I know, they may remember something that I don't.
Well, Steve, I can make you feel better about pinning the guy against the door that the cops are going to come through.
Please
I
do.
was, I was a rookie officer and I witnessed, I was on midnight shift. And it's, during that time of night that I witnessed a car almost hit another car and drive off. And the car that was almost hit, the driver blocked me in. to where I couldn't go get the other car. And he rolls down the window and he starts screaming at me like, "Aren't you gonna? Did you see that? Aren't you gonna do something about it?" And I said, "Well, I would." He said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "I would if you would get out of the way. I can't do anything." He said, "Oh," and he throws it in reverse. I ended up catching the guy, and he was DUI, and I did arrest him. But that just is always just, your statements brought that up to me, just the humorousness of that guy blocking me in. It was all mad until he realized that he was preventing me from being able to go catch the guy.
Well, it's something to, to take into consideration, and it's kind of like, wow, if I've got somebody that's, down
Yeah,
right in front of that door,
uh,
okay, how can I get those officers in here otherwise?
yeah,
So,
yep.
thinking about this stuff in advance, it's so much easier, as Claude Werner says, to have a plan and
Hmm.
then modify it as necessary, as opposed to come up with a plan right then on the spot while under stress.
All right, John, sometimes as an instructor, we teach a class and we think the class was successful, but then
Mhm.
we get the students take from it. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
sometimes I've taught a couple of classes that I thought, well, that didn't go well at all, but then the student feedback was dynamically good. So you account for 3 students in this class. Uh, kind of give us a feel for what you expected to get out of the class. Did the class effectively get across its points to you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect going into it. So I knew we were going to do the 22s. Um, biggest thing I was trying to do is get my wife and my daughter comfortable with guns, and because neither one of them ever shot guns. I mean, my daughter shot a 20 gauge shotgun once before, and that's about it. And that recoil on that thing just scared the crap out of her. So I think from a standpoint of at least, I think Edwina said the best. It's a gateway into, and she was extremely comfortable coming out of the class. I mean, my wife kind of bowed out maybe about 30 minutes or maybe a little bit more before because the heat was like 100 degrees outside. So my wife's a wuss when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I think she's more comfortable now as well. And as far as I'm concerned, there was a lot more in there that I learned about, like he was talking about where to hit, where to shoot. It wasn't, my wife was, forgive me for saying this. My wife's like, "Can I shoot him in the groin?" It's like, you shoot him in the groin, it's going to piss him off, and it's not going to necessarily stop him. So it's like, where do you want to shoot the guy to make somebody stop, coming at you and that kind of stuff. So I think it was really a combination of, like I say, the getting them comfortable with the guns. I was already a little bit more comfortable with than they were, but a little bit more knowledge about it. And then, like Steve kind of mentioned, talking about if somebody comes to your house, how do you approach them, how do you where do you stand, where do you look, all that kind of stuff. And then we did another exercise where it was like one guy in the house versus 2 guys in the house, or a guy that moves in the house, that kind of stuff. So it makes you think a little bit. So I was impressed with it. I mean, I thought it was really impressive. I wish it was a little bit cooler when we took the class, but overall, I was very impressed. And like I said, my daughter and my wife, anyway, you can talk about, my wife's ready to go buy a lot more guns. So I mean,
That's
I
always a
think
good
Excellent.
thing.
Yeah.
that's always a good thing. It did not scare her away. So the fact that it didn't scare her away and made her more comfortable to get into doing this, I was impressed with it.
There you go. Oh, I meant to ask you earlier, how did you find out about the class?
Well, Steve and Stacy have known each other for a long time, and I think Stacy's my wife. Stacy reached out to him on a separate a defense course for my daughter, and I think this came up. Steve, you could probably correct me,
No, that's
but
that's that's correct.
yeah, and it kind of came up as like, and so we decided to go ahead and give this one a shot. We're going to do more courses, but this was just kind of, like I said, it was the first one that came up.
When I have a student in class and they tell me this is the first class I've ever taken, so right now, Steve, you have taught them both the best and the worst class they have ever taken.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right.
Just as long as they remember my name. Any
There you go.
publicity is good publicity if they spell my name right.
There
Yep,
you
that's
go.
right.
And John, the reason I asked that is because the golden nugget question for all firearms instructors that are actually doing this as a somewhat as a business is how do you get students to, one, find out about your classes and then show up?
Hmm. I really don't know. I think, and I hate to say this, Steve, I think it's because my wife knows Steve. I think the showing up part's going to continue. I don't think there's any question that we're going to, because he's even done another, just a separate self-defense course, not arms related, but a
Mhm.
self-defense course for my daughter and her friends recently. But yeah, I guarantee it's the follow-on's going to be there. But I can't help
Mhm.
you with the how do you
Yeah,
find it and how
right.
do you market it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
sorry, Steve, can't help you with that
No,
one.
no, no. It's all good, brother. It's all good.
All right, Edwina, one, how did you find out about the course? And talk to us about how you felt it went. Was it personally effective for you?
So I've been teaching with Steve for, I guess, are we looking at a little over a year now, I think. I teach a lot of new students, a lot of first time shooters.
Hmm.
And Steve told me about the class and said, I think I want you to come take it. Um, he mentioned it earlier. That class started, John's daughter didn't know anything. Uh,
Mm-mm, not
and
anything.
she was literally banging away with that gun like a pro by the end of that day. She was doing amazing. And if you look at it from a beginner shooter, it's a very foundational course. But what Steve's incorporated into that with the tactical anatomy and with the scenario type training at the end, the last few drills, it packs a lot in 4 hours. A lot. Um, as a student, I had a lot of fun. It's that 22 is a whole lot lighter than my rifle, my AR. So,
Hmm.
it's you can do a lot more with that over an extended period of time for somebody who deals mostly with pistols. But as an instructor, I'm actually going to be incorporating some of that into my rifle classes because I have a few girls that come in and take rifle lessons with me, and it's just so sound that I'll be using that quite a bit.
All right, Charles.
You know, from my standpoint, I had fun. And I also had fun on a level of watching new students have fun and
Mhm.
learn. Um, I think in my standard notebook, I took 4 pages of notes. In my range notebook, I took another 6 pages of notes. And he covers everything in a logical progression. You know, Carl Wren talks about the importance of the smaller classes because you're not overwhelming a student.
Mhm.
Um, but he does cover a lot of information in a block of, I think we were about 5 hours that day.
Mhm.
Uh, but he does it in a progressive manner. You know, we start with safety. You know, he handles the medical aspect of it. He goes over briefly nomenclature. That way, people who are new know what we're talking about as we work our way through class. You know, he talks about, you know, basically just a brief intro. What do I need? What things need to be met for me to use a weapon for self-defense? Um, and then he talks about the tactical anatomy aspects of it. And he does it, take it through a logical progression into how to hold the gun, how to manipulate the gun, various ready positions into shooting. And it's all done at a pace that is watching the new students. I didn't see them ever get overwhelmed. It was a hot day. I saw the heat take its toll on people who aren't prepared for that. But you know, I never saw anyone who was just thoroughly overwhelmed. They seemed to have fun through it all. And at the end of the day, they were shooting really well. And to me, that's successful. You know, if they can come out of a class safely, no more holes than they started with, having fun, shooting better. And it's an enormous amount of information. And they understand that I need more information. That's one of the best things that ever happened to me was coming away from a class realizing, hey, this is something that's going to require me more than just a class to know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I saw it as successful.
Hmm. Okay, I'm going to define a term here. Uh, I like to call it storage ready because I think that applies to whatever the setting you're storing the firearm. And the definition for that would be empty chamber, loaded magazine, and then some people are safety on and off. Typically, if I've got a firearm at what I would call storage ready, I don't have the safety activated so that I can pick it up. And in the case, say I'm running 1022, I pick it up, I run the bolt and go to work. If it's a pump action 12 gauge shotgun, I pick it up and I run the pump and run the action. And now I've got a round chamber and I'm ready to go to work. If it's my beloved lever action rifle, I pick it up, I work the lever, I got a round in the chamber. Um, some people call that cruiser ready. Um, the term I initially learned was gun box ready, um, but they're all the same thing. They're all the same. I've been trying to retrain myself to say storage ready because, if people are keeping it in their house, they don't have it in a cruiser. And where that term comes from, either cruiser ready or gun box ready, is that's how law enforcement carried shotguns in the cars for forever. Um, for one, most old pump shotguns were not drop safe. And if you had a round in the chamber and you hit a bump hard enough, you could cause the gun to fire or manage to snag the trigger getting it out of the gun rack or whatever, you cause the gun to fire. Or if you had it propped in the corner and it leaned and it got knocked over and fell, it would fire. So that was where that whole keep it stored with the empty chamber comes into play. Same thing with an AR-15. I'll have bolt closed, but a magazine inserted. I pick it up, I run the bolt, and now I've got a round chambered, and then I do what I got to do. Steve, is that the start point that you had people starting off in this class?
Yes, and we unload and go back to that point on multiple times throughout ever. So if you show them how to do that, then they
Mhm.
just do it one time, it's no good. So every time that we finished out, because the thing that we always try to do is I want to fire no more than 10 rounds and load no more than 10 rounds because I want everyone to shoot to empty. It just simply makes it easier. I do call it cruiser ready. The only slight difference I do is I still prefer the AR-15 M&P 1522s. I leave the safety on them, even though they're still in
Mm,
cruiser ready, because it's just
yeah.
such a natural
Right.
position to put your thumb
Yeah.
there. However, I treat those 1022s like shotguns, same way that Tom teaches in the
Hmm.
Range Master Defensive Shotgun class. Don't put the safety on, leave it empty, and put a magazine in there. And just be aware that, of course, that if you have children, then you may have some challenges there. You're going to have to figure out exactly how you're going to do that because it can take a few seconds to get one of those 1022 magazines into the chamber, even with the 15 round,
Yeah.
version and everything. But have I mean, things you could do is basically put it in a closet, lock the closet, put, a biometric lock or something like that. If you need to get to the gun, and you keep your children away from it. So there's certain things that you have to do. Of course, if we have children, every time my grandkids come, ages now 14 and about 8, I still just so sanitize my house. And if a gun is not on my person, it's in a it's in a locked closet or in a gun safe. So cruiser ready, I think that's very important. And the students seem to have no problem with the concept. As a matter of fact, it's the only thing they ever knew. So
Okay.
it's not a big deal.
The reason I asked is that the experience that I have working with newer shooters is getting them to pick up the gun and point it where you want them to point it and press the trigger and do the actual shooting is actually more easily accomplished than teaching them all the manipulations
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
involved. And so I was curious as to what you saw from the students picking that up to start with.
The biggest challenge we saw was the students getting some of those 1022 magazines inserted.
Right.
So to me, that's just another, learning point. is that we really need to drive it home that you need to have those in place. You don't want to have the two separated when somebody's trying to get through your door or there's somebody lurking outside. You want to be able to get that into operation. And the other thing, just the importance of keeping that safety off once you pick that gun up.
Mhm.
Because if all of a sudden you have that gun on safety this time and threat, and you come up there and you do everything that you were trained to do and you press it and it's a dead trigger, well, that's going to be a bad day. So saw a few examples of that, and there were 2 times that I actually did exactly that. I came up there, I was like, hey guys,
Mhm.
do as I say, not as I do. Come up there, go to press the trigger, the safety's on. And I'm like, oh, that, you know, don't follow my example, just listen to what I say.
Yeah, I wonder if the setup and the return to cruiser ready on that with a magazine, detachable magazine fed weapon, such as 1022 AR-15 style or whatever, is easier to accomplish and for people to understand than trying to teach it with a tube fed shotgun.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I think so.
Okay. John, did you have any issues, your wife and daughter, any issues learning to understand the cruiser ready, gun box ready, storage ready, whichever you want?
No, not at all. I mean, like Steve was saying, we all had the 10 rounds in there, and every time we slammed it in there and checked the, make sure the it was all chambered and all that kind of stuff. So no, it was pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And Lee,
Edwin?
one of the things that we did do was we worked off of 6-foot tables.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
basically you had a place to bench your gun. You weren't going over to a gun rack, so we didn't have people walking around, with guns in their hands because, that's something that I might do for an intermediate defensive carbine class
Hmm.
or even a shotgun class to some effect. But in terms of this particular class, everybody did a really good job trying to be safe, but sometimes you just, you forget, you don't know, you didn't realize safety applied to this. So we just keep those guns benched on the tables. The other thing that it's just me is I won't let the students go in front of those tables at
Hmm.
all with those rifles pointing muzzle down. Uh, Again, we'll go out there, make sure the bolts are open. We look through them, we chamber check them before, we do any kind of range adjustments or target adjustments.
Edwin, any issues with storage ready, cruiser ready, gun box ready?
Now, it didn't seem like it was a hang up for anybody. Um, you know, I know Charles is all new and all that, right? But just kidding. But for the newer shooters, it didn't seem like it was something that they were going to have an issue following up with.
Okay.
It was introduced that way in the beginning, and it just became part of the process.
Hmm.
Charles, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Edwina that, introducing a new shooter to that concept from the beginning kind of makes it a whole lot easier, I think.
Mhm.
For a homeowner, anyone, I don't know if any of you guys have had a class with Nate Parker. He is a fantastic shotgun instructor. He calls it closet ready for the homeowner. And I like that concept because, I mean, so many homeowners, that's their default place of putting that self-defense long gun. Um, but, I mean, there are very few long guns that are drop safe. And, everybody understanding that from the get-go as a new shooter is really important to me. And I think stressing that's a great idea.
All right. Um, in thinking about the whole topic, and all right, we're trying to accomplish this all in a 4 hour class, 4 to 5 hour. The big question that would come up with me, other than manipulations, as far as going from storage ready to live fire, returning back to that setup, would be dealing with malfunctions. Steve, did you get a chance to deal with that any, or was it addressed any?
Most of the malfunctions we saw were caused by just, poor quality ammunition.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you
Hmm.
got to, change that. And then we did have one or two, I think they were almost operator induced double feeds. And the thing about that is something that, even, a skilled operator is going to take a while to deal with,
Yeah.
to clear that. And given just the tight confines of the class, we did not do anything except just simple, okay, if it goes click, rack it again. Nice thing about those magazines, for the most part, is that it's not a function of the magazine not being fully seated. If you go in there and you do is you put that thing in and then you pull on it, it just does not seem to be a problem. Uh, but again, it's just something like, there's other stuff I'd like to teach in advanced classes.
Hmm.
Should, we feel like we can get the students to do it, because there's a lot
Right.
more that we could teach, and we could get a whole lot better at what was taught at this class through multiple repetitions. And now we can kind of go ahead now. Okay, you've had time to practice. Okay, let's go ahead and do a little bit of refinement. See if we can't do something to, increase the economy of motion,
Yeah.
to, enhance just, your even the economy of effort in order to shoot well. But we just did not have. I just did not feel like I had time to do that in this class.
Right. Okay. With the M&P 1522s, I've got one that will only run that CCI tactical AR ammo.
Hmm.
With it seems to be practically flawless. But I try to run anything else in that gun and it won't run it. The other one runs anything I put in it, or at least anything I've tried in it.
This is one of the reasons that we're pretty big fans of the CCI Mini Mag.
Hmm.
It doesn't, with that lot of that ammunition, every time you load around, you've got black lube on your fingers. That lube builds up in the chamber after a while, which makes extraction or feeding problems, or
Hmm.
causes for those. Thing with mini mags, it's very clean ammunition, has,
Hmm.
good quality control. And one of the things that I like about those mini mags is regardless of the barrel length, they have good penetration. I was a big advocate of the federal punch, and I may still be. But, given Chuck's observations about decreased penetration with a 16-inch barrel because of the higher velocity, I'm like,
Hmm.
I kind of feel like we need that penetration. So I've got, I want to try it out. I've got a little Ruger, oh my God, what do they call those things? Charger with the
Hmm.
8-inch barrel and an M&P 1522 with the 8-inch barrel. I want to test that in ballistic gel because that may just be the bee's knees. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Uh, John, any mechanical issues with your gun? Any malfunctions you had to deal with?
I think I had a couple of shots that didn't fire off, and like Steve said, it was just I think it was the rounds, and we just kind of cleared it real quick. And I think it was maybe two shots, but I think I was using an MP15, but
Yeah.
it was a good gun, but no, I didn't really have anything that was massive. I
Okay.
got the guy. I think it was Charles sitting next to me. I got a couple of shells on my neck, kind of burnt me a little bit. So that was the biggest one I had.
Yeah, on a 100-degree day, those are always appreciated.
It just made it worse.
Oh man. Oh, probably getting close to 20 years ago. I took a patrol rifle class and the firing position got up to over 106 degrees. And we had
Yeah.
like crazy levels of humidity. And in a prone position, I got a 5.56 shell casing from somebody else's rifle landed on my
Hmm.
forearm. And I had a 5.56 shell casing tattoo for about
Uh-huh.
2 years before it faded off of the arm.
Yeah, yeah. Mine was right here on the neck. I think I can
Uh,
still feel it.
One thing to think about with those 1522s is for a while there was a headspace issue with those, and they were barred from the Appleseed classes, and now they're letting those go provided they pass a headspace check. And
Uh-huh.
Smith and Wesson was providing a headspace gauge to those people who requested it. And I don't know if that's still the case, if they're still doing that, and if they've weeded all those out of the system by now. But I got the headspace gauge and checked both of mine. But that may be something you want to look into with yours if you want to, if you're looking at going to something like an Appleseed class
Very cool.
down the road. Edwin, any malfunction issues?
Well, they're 22s.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to happen.
Right.
I do like the way it was handled, though. Steve just kind of allowed things to happen organically.
Hmm.
And I like when that happens because our students tend to learn better when they have to work through something. The retention is there from there on. And once someone had a malfunction, they figured out what it was. The second time, the third time, they just automatically started fixing it. So I love when those things happen organically. It's so much more impactful on the student.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey,
Charles?
With my experience with 22s, I cleaned my 22 before I came, used mini mag ammo and good Ruger magazines, and it ran fine. But a 22 is, in my experience, just very ammo specific. Each 20, and it can be a lot of ammo. And, you can change lots of ammo and have big changes in the performance of ammo. So I had run this particular lot of ammo. So for me, it wasn't an issue. But I really agree with Edwina. The organic malfunctions that Steve, just let them manage is a meaningful way to learn. And if you're around a 22 much, you're going to figure out real quickly that mini 22s can be very ammo specific. So that's all I got.
Steve, did you have a comment?
well, I was just going to say, and that's why ammunition is just so important. It's just so important. So for a long time, I wouldn't, and I probably still be fine with this. I wouldn't shoot anything except high grade target 22 ammunition in my guns, and I would still do it. Assuming I could find some that was relatively high velocity, because those velocities can vary quite a bit, and velocity has a lot to do with penetration. But a big thing about it is there were all sorts of ammunition shot in that class. And I don't blame people. And I was supplying people,
Mhm.
with, okay, this is my training ammunition, but this is what I recommend. And
Right.
so I don't want people to think that, okay, just inherently 22 rifles are going to be unreliable.
No,
It is just very much like Charles said, you need to keep the chamber clean and you need to keep them lubricated and you need to select high quality 22 ammunition.
right.
And the chances that you're going to have a malfunction go way down.
Mhm.
Excuse me. But the one of the reasons I wanted to hit on that is, one of the legitimate criticisms would be what all can you get done in a 4-hour class? And we're going to say, okay, we got this 22 rifle. Well, here's one of the downfalls: is rimfire ammunition is inherently inconsistent. So, you know, how do we deal with that? For Steve, you or me or Charles, if I said, when it's I get a click, I'm just going to run the bolt, not even think about it,
Mhm.
and just go on to like a new student. John's daughter here, for example. I know when I've taught that age student, well, even you know baby cops coming out to the range for the first time, and they get a malfunction, they just kind of stand there and just look at the gun, and then they turn around and look at me like, how do I fix it? What just happened here? Um, I think that's one of the things you'd have to just drill into the student. As you get a click, you've got to run that bolt
Run
and
the boat.
just keep going. Um, the other issue that has been playing in my mind with this topic would be the issue of weapon retention in close combat. And Steve, I see your smile on your face, and so I know you've got a martial arts background, and so there's probably something that's coming to your mind right now. Did you address the topic at all?
Yes, we adjusted it.
Yeah.
We addressed the topic. We had them shoot from it. We had them shoot from it, step back, come up to the shoulder and shoot. And we do this other little thing where I actually approach them from the side and I
Mhm.
grab the forend of the rifle when they're in low ready and I pull it to just, offline. And I say, the target is still in front of you, drop to a knee, point the muzzle, and shoot till you're shoot till you're happy.
Right.
And so basically, it is what I'm, anticipating. They grab the muzzle, student just drops to their knees, levers it up, and then just goes ahead, let them have it. And of course, had a couple of students, uh, including one of my instructors, not this group, in which, well, I need to shoot them up there, where you know, all the thoracic park, that is, where all the good stuff is. And I'm like, no, you don't have to.
Right.
Your job right here is to diminish them.
Mhm.
And if you can do it at an angle and you start putting rounds into that lateral vascular pelvis, right where that hip joint is, I have
Mhm.
no illusions that it's going to break anything. But that thing, that's where the iliac arteries run through. And if that thing is severed, you probably have a run time of about 30 seconds. Well, yeah, they can do a lot in 30 seconds, but so can you. So, you know what? Like you said, we just kind of have to work with what we have.
Right. And for the internet and your internet short attention span, he did not claim that a pelvic girdle shot with a 22 was going to be an instant stopper. He did not claim that. I think he actually said the opposite of that. And he said, it's like, look, you're making the best of a bad situation at this point. Yeah, maybe if you get them to get off of you at that point to where you can work to get the shot that you really would prefer to have.
Exactly.
Or if they run
Exactly.
off at that point, it's even better.
Which is going to happen about 90% of the time. And
Right.
if they don't, and you can stay in it and you're making those hits, at some point, they're not going to
Yeah.
be able to continue.
Right.
And there's a big myth, I think, about what bullet wounds do to the human body. It's
Yeah.
not blood loss. It is not blood loss that incapacitates an attacker. And of course, I know that the central nervous system, I
Mhm.
exclude that from there. But what it is, it's sufficient blood loss or rapid blood loss that actually causes the person to faint. That's all
Mhm.
it is. Your blood pressure drops and you faint. I have to take high blood pressure medicine. It's just a thing that my sisters and I all have to do. And one of the things I found out was that in hot weather, if I am dehydrated and I have taken my high blood pressure medicine and I suddenly jump up, I will suddenly go down. And so it's something as little as that,
Mhm.
sudden drop in blood pressure. There's no blood loss basically. It's just
Yeah.
there was no brain blood getting to my brain. And in both instances, I fortunately I was right next to other people, one of which was my wife, which scared her to death. And she managed to grab me before I, hit my melon on the concrete. But I'm like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, go, well, what's up? Well, I mean, basically that's what we're talking about. It's not massive blood loss. It's rapid blood loss to the extent it causes the person to literally go unconscious. So people that are shot in the superior aorta, 22 long rifle round, we got lots of evidence that thing will actually cause cavitation in the aorta. I mean, there'll be a tear inch and an inch and a half long. Well, it, they may, lapse to the ground and they're incapable of fighting or unconscious, but they're not dead. That's
Yeah.
going to come later. And our objective, as you know, is basically we need to stop a deadly threat who is a person who has the intent, opportunity, and ability to kill me right now. And we need to make it happen just as soon as possible. If they happen to die, that's very unfortunate, but that's just something we have to accept.
Right.
If I could say one more thing
Sure.
about the 22 in reference to some of the things that Eric said, man, I agree with him. I mean, I cannot dispute it. There's no rebuttal there. A 22 is by no means as effective as a 9 millimeter handgun, especially with good ammunition that has a good aggressive cookie cutter meplat. And so as a matter of fact, that's what I use. I don't use a 22 rifle for home defense. I use a 9 millimeter pistol, and it's, in my opinion, it's a more versatile weapon. Uh, I can, you know, maneuver it easily. If I need to go out of my room, open the door, get a flashlight, I've got all these other advantages. I completely agree. And if all of our students were capable of doing something like that, then do that, please don't go with the 22 rifle. But if you can't, or you'll never be in a position where you can use a centerfire handgun, well, then use the most effective tool that you have, understand its limitations, and just know that most people that are confronted with a gun are not going to stay around. And the few that are, if you use that thing precisely, put those bullets where they need to be, that person is going to become incapacitated at some point. And if you hit them in the right place, it'll be very rapid.
All right. John, any final thoughts on the class, on the effectiveness of the rifle, things that you learned? Just anything you want to throw out there?
Just kind of reiterate. I mean, Steve kind of mentioned some of that stuff just now. It's like I've got shotguns in my closet in our gun case. We got a 9mm. My wife will not pick up any one of those things. She is deathly
Yes.
afraid of even a 20 gauge shotgun. She's not going to pick one of those things up. More comfortable with the 22 than she is with anything else. I want her to get to the point where she's more comfortable with it, and I think the 22 is a good step in the right direction. I travel a lot. If she picks up 22 and somebody's in the house, I'll be happy. I mean, if that's the best thing that she's got over a butter knife, then you know what, I'll go with that one. But she's comfortable with it. I think she feels like she can handle that kind of gun. Eventually, she's going to get to something else, hopefully. But yeah, and I think like we said before, the class itself gave her some more insight. Steve was talking about, you know, the one person that was talking about shooting somebody in the groin when they do that little hand thing. That was my wife. I'm pretty sure that was her saying that, as opposed to hitting the aorta or the hip area. That was my wife wanting to shoot somebody in the nuts. But yeah, but yeah, I think it was very beneficial, and my daughter's more comfortable with it. I think we're going to keep going. We're going to keep expanding, and we're going to keep seeing where we can go, just for a comfort level, if anything else.
All right. Well, here's the $1 million question for you guys, for you specifically. If you had taken your wife and your daughter to their first class and it had been shooting 9mm pistol all day, do you think they would have come away enthused to go, or do you think they would have bowed out quickly?
I think they would have bowed out. That recoil on a 9mm, I don't think she would have felt the same way. I know my daughter wouldn't have,
Right.
but I think now she's a little bit more comfortable that we can get. She's not there yet. I mean,
Okay.
we're probably a little bit away from getting my daughter a 9mm, or even my wife for that matter, a 9mm. She's gonna be comfortable with, but yeah, I think now she's like, yeah, I can shoot a gun.
Okay.
So I think it's a good start.
All right. Edwina, any final thoughts? Any?
Um, as I was listening to John just now, it it dawned on me what it is. It's both of them walked away empowered.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yep.
felt it. They realized it's something they can do,
Mm-hmm.
and totally opened up to it. So I said it before. It's a great gateway class. I agree with Steve. I mean, if that's all you believe you can handle,
Mm-hmm.
it works. It works. It's shot placement is everything, and we've always taught that. Shooting in a leg or a shoulder is probably not going to be your best option, but if you put well placed rounds, absolutely. With the 22, sure. Look at the ballistic gel testing, it works. So, beginners, others, it's just a great foundational class. And I'm so excited for the girls.
Yeah.
They are too.
That just tickles me.
They
So,
are too.
Yeah.
good.
Charles.
Good.
Well, I agree completely with Steve. I mean, my home defense plan is hard corner with a 13 Beretta 1301, but my wife is never going to pick that up. So I'm in the process of setting up a Challenger with a brace and a pistol optic to get her comfortable with something that she is can use when I'm gone, and also work with my two youngest daughters with it that gives them something that's just very user friendly. And for a home defense gun, it's not perfect, but
Mhm.
it's probably better than screaming for help.
Mhm.
And certainly better than, I had someone try to talk to me about home defense, and they're like, well, I want something other than a gun and pepper spray. I'm like, well, unless you're willing to put an enormous amount of time into combatives, you're pretty much out of luck. And this gives them something that with a short class, you can at least get them a good start. A 4 hour class gets them started down a road, and then if they can go, as they develop, get into a 9 millimeter or something else, all the better.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, your camera went blank again.
I see that.
All right. Any final thoughts that you would have for the audience on this class?
Well, it simply is. It's a good weapon for persons that aren't comfortable with anything else. And one of the things that I have noted over the years, I'm an older dude. I've been reading the American Rifleman magazine for decades. And there has been a column in there about the armed citizen in which we see untrained armed citizens successfully defend themselves all the time. As a matter of fact, if you go ahead and go to the National Rifle Association, there's still an armed citizen page where they talk about what, as far as I know, are untrained men and women that successfully defend themselves. Well, I believe that in many instances, it may have been a little bit of luck, or, maybe it was a criminal that wasn't all that, dangerous. But the thing is, the more trained I am, the luckier I am. And so I think that people that want to be armed, they're not willing or they're not mentally ready to go get a handgun, that have a 22 rifle, they can shoot it. They have confidence in their abilities. They know where to shoot, is probably way better off than the majority of those people that defend themselves successfully. So to them, I encourage them to look into 22 rifles, and I'm going to be training my granddaughters. I think I mentioned their ages before. We're going to start on this pretty soon. So I really like the idea of also like exposing like young men and women before they go to college. Give them some exposure to this. Of course, they can't carry guns in college, but as time goes on and they start developing maybe a more realistic and mature outlook on the threats that are out there, it may very well be something that at some point they're going, wow, this just happened to this couple or this girl. I don't want that to happen to me. I'm going to go back, get a gun, and I'm going to start training again.
All right. Steve, do you have any more offerings of this class upcoming?
Actually, we have our last class of the year uh, next Saturday at the Dallas Pistol Club.
Okay.
So that will be, I believe that is the 11th, and we start at 8:30. We're scheduled to go to 1. Probably wouldn't surprise me if it was 1:30. And of course, you've been there multiple times, and that's a very nice venue. Have a nice classroom to work out. And one of the things that I do is every time I teach a class, I get with my other instructors and I hot wash it. And then I go, okay, what do we need to do different? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? And try to make these little tweaks. And so saw some tweaks, lessons learned in this particular class that will be applied to that class. So I'm really excited about doing it. And folks, especially if you're listening to this, you're probably already a concealed carry armed defender. Not necessarily talking to you. I'm talking to you in regard to any, way that you might get your family into, shooting, doing with something that is just inoffensive as a 22. Get them out there, start training them. Ideally, what I would like to see, and I have no concerns at all about Charles and even John working with his family, is that once you understand how to do that, then you can start working with your family members.
Yeah.
So a little bit of training can go a long way, and most especially if it comes from somebody or through somebody that is able to, explain how to do it, and it's basically safe and functional and uses proven techniques.
Steve, did you notice any difference in the reliability between like the M&P 1522 and the other AR clones and the
Uh,
1022?
well, I tell you what, there were so many more of the AR-15 clones were unreliable. We had one that wouldn't work from the very beginning, and we had another uh, FN Scar 22, some sort. Uh, I mean, I don't want to tell anybody their baby's ugly, but this baby's heavy, and
Yeah,
it was not reliable. So I
yeah.
kind of find that these guns that are purpose built to
Hmm.
shoot 22 rounds as opposed to, uh, uppers that you put on your AR-15 lower. I really think that is the better way to go. And the other thing is these little M&P 1522 rifles and pistols, they are super light.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you what, you get one of those AR pistols with a brace, especially one that you can fold, and you can put that in your
yeah.
suitcase and take it into a hotel every single night, you know, load it up, get ready, all right, put it back in there. And so you actually have a long gun, more or less a long gun, that you can take you with you when you travel. And so there's a place for those. And even right now, uh, there's a place for my 22s. I live out here on acreage. I've got critters and stuff and everything, and I need a 22 out here. So that 22 that I have supplements my handgun, and certainly on this particular place, it takes the place of an AR-15 or a shotgun. So just some random thoughts.
Okay, so the 1522 versus 1022, did you see any reliability differences?
I thought that the 1522s, a lot of those are older, and so
Hmm.
we would see a few reliability issues.
Yeah,
By the same token, it's very difficult for me to, track that back to the ammunition.
yeah,
I've got four 1022s, and I have one that has a pretty tight chamber.
yeah.
And so I literally have to clean the chamber every single time in order to convince myself that it's going to, run. And I loaned it out to a person that was having trouble with their AR-15 clone, or the one that's
Yeah.
chamber for 22, and he had no issues with it whatsoever. But man,
Mhm.
I use good ammunition. I keep them clean. They just run like tops.
Yeah. And folks reach you through Palisade Training Group, correct?
Palisade Training Group, ptgtrainingllc.com. And since we're talking about me, I'd like to go ahead and talk about the Tactical Anatomy Summits.
Sure.
We're doing four of those in 2026. Dallas Pistol Club, Memphis. Is it Cohutta? Cohutta Pines?
Kahuna Pines.
Cohutta Pines, and in it's in Kansas. It's where they have the ass people work out of. So
Okay.
I can't remember that. It's
Yeah,
not a
I'm
town
not
I'm
sure.
familiar with, but I mean that's a really, really nice range. So we've got that going four times, and that is really getting some good press. And
Mhm.
I would encourage you, even if you've taken this class, go get some in-depth training on it. And the thing about the Tactical Anatomy Summit, and Edwina and Charles, I think, will attest to this, is that the way you train, especially on your own, is different from then on because you're no
Yes.
longer happy with shooting 6-inch circles or
Mhm.
8-inch, IDPA circles, whatever. You want to shoot at an area that's about the size of that, what we call thoracic part. You've got the upper part of your heart all the way up to the sternal notch, and it's located a little bit higher. Uh, every time I practice, uh, that is the only target I shoot at anymore.
Mhm.
The Cognitive Conclave is coming up the last weekend of October. We have probably five, maybe six openings in that. We were down to four openings, but we had a couple of people had to cancel out. We are still going forward, even though we have lost Mr. Olshan.
Oh
There will
yeah.
be Eric and John Hearn and myself, but we're still moving forward. So we do have room for you if you're interested in taking that class. Um, I held off on doing this to the end because I'm very likely to get a little emotional. This, I think Thursday or Thursday, uh, one of the most finest human beings, sorry, one of the finest human beings that I've ever known, Jimmy Simons, um, lost his 6 year battle with cancer.
Mm.
Um, Jimmy leaving behind a wife and two precious daughters. He's had a 20-year career as a peace officer here in the state of Georgia. Um, Outstanding, salt of the earth human being. His fellow officers voted him as Officer of the Year 4 times.
Wow.
Was recognized over 20 different times with awards from his coworkers and command staff. Um, Also, he received a governor award from the governor of Georgia and a Medal of Valor when he was a rookie officer. Jimmy ran into a burning building and saved lives. He and his FTO. And for 20 years, he's had to deal with me tormenting him by introducing him to people as Medal of Valor winner Jimmy Simons. He saves people from burning buildings. And he, oh, come on, Weems, come on. And it never ceased to be fun. Uh, I would even I would even find new people that were going to work for their agency, and I would prep them. Like, hey, when you meet this guy named Jimmy Simons, go, are you the Jimmy Simons, the guy that saves people from burning buildings? And then just salt of the earth guy, outstanding human being. And Jimmy, you're gonna be missed, bud.
I'm
Uh,
sorry to hear.
um,
Yeah,
he would be
exactly.
missed. Um, So to the people on the show tonight, thank you for giving up your Sunday evening to come record this episode. To the audience, we know that your most important asset is your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with us.